Hello and welcome. This is going to be our lecture video for February 16th and 17th. We're going to be doing a step-by-step binder lesson today about all of fractions. This binder lesson is available on the extra stuff calendar, as well as it will be handed out in class. All right, so this one's going to be a little bit different because we're not going to do just one big step-by-step. We're going to talk about all the different operations that we need to be able to do with fractions. That's just sort of separate bullet points, and we'll start with a short explanation of how to simplify. All right, in order to simplify, we want to divide the top and bottom, and I'll just be calling them top and bottom today instead of numerator and denominator, so we don't have to write as much. Divide the top and the bottom by any common factors and repeat until no common factors remain. For example, and this is what we should always look for first, if the top and bottom are even, if the top and bottom are even, divide them both by 2. All right, so let's look at example 1. Here we have 6 over 30. Those are both even, so I'll divide them both by 2. All right, now I get 3 over 15. But now I check and see for other common factors, and I see they're both divisible by 3. And I get 1 over 5. All right, next up, let's talk about how to find the product. All right, so we're just gonna do this with bullet points. We want to turn into improper fractions. If they aren't already. If they're already proper fractions, then we can ignore this step. But if they're given us mixed numbers, turn them into improper fractions. And then we're going to multiply straight across the top and bottom. And then we will simplify. All right, so let's take a look at problem number 2 here. I'm going to turn these into mixed numbers by doing the loop. 1 times 7 plus 5 becomes 12, then make it negative, so negative 12 over 7. The 7 stays in the bottom. Times 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, so 5 over 2. Now I can multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. We could also look to cross simplify first. I do recognize that I have 2 even numbers here that are diagonal. I could divide these both by 2 and turn this into a 1 and turn this into a negative 6. All right, then multiply straight across the top and the bottom, and I get negative 30 over 7. And we'll just leave our answers as improper fractions today. This would be negative 4 and 2/7, but especially with negatives, I think improper fractions are just easier to understand. All right, quotient. So how do we find the quotient? All right, in order to find the quotient, again, we need to turn into improper fractions. All right. Then copy dot flop. This turns any division problem into a multiplication problem. All you have to do is copy the first one, write a dot for multiplication, flip the second fraction, and now you have a multiplication problem. So now you have a multiplication problem. All right, so let's turn number 3 into improper fractions by doing the loop. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 5 is 17. So I get 17 over 6 divided by 4 times 9 is 36, plus 2 is 38, so 38 over 9. I then copy, dot, flop. Copy, dot, flop. All right, now I can multiply straight across the top and the bottom, but let's look to see if this can be simplified. The 9 and the 6, those are both divisible by 3. So I'll divide them both by 3 and turn this into a 2 and this into a 3. And I don't think these share any common factors. So now we'll multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. 3 times 17. I got my calculator. Three times 17 is 51. And 2 times 38 is 76. All right. Leave it as an improper fraction. All right, on the back, how do we find the sum of two fractions? So again, we must start with improper fractions or proper fractions, but we just can't start with mixed numbers. So we're going to turn them into improper fractions. All right, and then this is a tricky step. We need to multiply the top and bottom of each fraction to get a common denominator. Multiply the top and the bottom of each fraction to get a common denominator. All right, one thing that will always work, let's write this. It will always work to multiply each bottom by the other bottom. That will always give you a common denominator. It might not always be the least common denominator, but it'll always give you a common denominator. All right, so let's take a look at problem number 4. We'll do the loop on both of these to turn them into improper fractions. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 3 is 27. Bring up the negative, so negative 27 over 8. Plus 7 times 4 is 28, plus 3 is 31. Bring up the negative, so negative 31 over 4. All right, right now they do not have a common denominator, the 8 and the 4, but I can turn this 8 or this 4 into an 8 by just multiplying it by 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top, so I'm going to multiply both the bottom and the top by 2, so I don't change the value of this fraction. Now I get negative 27 over 8 plus negative 62 over 8. All right, and then the last step is add the tops. All right, so negative 27 plus a negative 62 becomes a negative 89 all over 8. And we'll leave our answer like that. All right, now for difference. All we have to do right for difference is same setup as addition, but at the end, subtract the tops. All right, let's practice this with number 5. I'm going to do the loop here and here. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 5 is 17. So I get 17 over 6 minus 2 times 7 is 14 plus 2 is 16. So 16 over 7. All right, I need to get a common denominator. So one thing that will always work is multiplying them by each other. So the 7 times 6 and the 6 times 7. That way we get a 42 on both of those, but whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So times 7 over here, times 6 over here. Let's get out that calculator again. 17 times 7 is 119 over 42 minus 16 times 6 is 96 all over 42. And then very similar to addition, but now we're just going to subtract the tops. 119 minus 96 is 23. And we still keep a 42 on the bottom, so 23 over 42. And then check to see if you can simplify. And then check at the end to simplify. We'll just write that on this one, and it'll apply to the addition one too. Check at the end to simplify. 23 and 42, I do not believe share any common factors though. And we'll say check at the very end to simplify, since we already said at the end you subtract the tops. All right, and then our last type of fraction that we were going to deal with are algebraic fractions. All right, how we're going to solve these is we're going to expand the exponents. We're going to cancel. And we're going to simplify the numeric part. Whoops. Simplify numeric part. So 2x over 2x cubed. The 2x on the top will stay the same, but the 2x cubed will become 2 times x times x times x. That's what it means to expand an exponent. Now when we cancel, I can just cross out an x from the top and the bottom. And then for the numeric part, 2 over 2, that just becomes a 1 over 1. That cancels as well, but I have to leave a 1 on top. You have to leave a 1 on top. Let's just write that over here. Have to leave a 1 on top. And then we're going to put this back together as an x squared. So in the very end, we're left with 1 over x squared. All right, let's call that good for this lecture video. And I'll embed a few more questions here, but have a good rest of your day.